Hello everyone, good morning. I'm sharing my screen. So when you join the training sessions, you will be muted by default, guys. So don't search for a mute button in a hurry and don't hit that mute button. So when you hit the mute button, it's like unmuting yourself. So meeting has been designed or it has been set up in such a way that as soon as you join the meeting, you will be muted by default. Okay, so you don't have to search for that mute button and unmute yourself. So we'll pick it up from where we have left off yesterday. We were covering the web service basics, and we did cover the SOAP service basics in our previous session. And all of you know what exactly XSD means, what is WSDL, what is XML, what are operations, and how do we invoke a SOAP service. So we are clear on the SOAP service basic session. Any questions from anyone on the SOAP service basics, guys, before I proceed further?
Yeah, Prasad. Did we create the
Good morning. This is Ramesh. Yesterday
One
I have
second,
one SOAP
Ram.
survey.
1 second. When a participant starts speaking in, please wait for him to complete and then talk. So Hemant has just started off with this question. Let him complete and then I'll come to you and take the question.
Yeah, Prasad. Did we create the custom WSDL?
Did we create it? You tell me yes or no.
I think yes.
Anyone else thinks that we have in the group thinks that we have created a custom WSDL?
No, we haven't created.
No.
We just use the standard ERP integration service WSDL given by Oracle. We didn't create any new WSDL, Hemant. Yes, when we build integrations in OIC, like starting from journal import service, etc., when we start building integrations in OIC and when we activate it, if we use a SOAP trigger connection, that would be exposed as a SOAP service. What we did yesterday is we just picked up one of the standard SOAP service given by Oracle and we just invoked it. We just tested it. Okay, we didn't create any new SOAP service. Okay, and if your next question is, Prasad, can you show me how to create a SOAP service? Yes, we will certainly build not just one, quite a few of them, but starting next week. Yes, Ram, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, that Fusion SaaS application while trying to log in, it is showing that authentication is failed. I tried with all the links, actually green color links only. I tried.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Now you tell me what exactly I need to do. I go to V16 instance.
Yeah, third one I have 14 number I have opened. Line number 14. Yeah.
14, that's okay. Did you try 10? I used 10 in the instance.
10 I'm not tried. 14 I tried actually.
Okay, that's okay. If some instance is not working, it could have been either user could have been locked or someone would have more of the password would have been reset by Oracle. Okay, so if one is not working, simple. All you have to do is all you have to do is if one instance is not working, right? Just move on and use the other one. I'm going to knock this off. Mark it and red.
Okay.
Okay. You can go ahead and use EVWB. This one is working. I have been using it since morning. Okay.
Okay, Prasad. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, guys, from anyone? Yeah. Let's go ahead and
one
move
quick
on
question, Prasad.
With
when I tried from the SOAP UI, like for the first 5 times authentication was failed, then it connected actually. Any reason for that? Like,
did you go through this video? Whatever video that I've shared yesterday, when in this material, I have uploaded a video called "How to Use OIC Onboarding Email." Did you go through this video?
Yes, I have gone through that.
Okay. In this video, I have explained when a user gets logged and how to unlock the user as well, right? So when will the user gets logged in ERP? It gets logged if you try a wrong password for more than 5 times, right?
Okay.
So in your case, what would have happened? Maybe the user would have been logged, and when you tried initially, it didn't work, but someone would have unlocked the user, and that's why it worked a 6th time. So don't
Okay.
think that it's not like a Ford ice cream problem.
Okay.
No magic in the background. It's just that somebody would have unlocked the user.
Okay, Prasad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now we'll cover the REST API basics, and we will do it exactly the same way we covered the SOAP service basics. How did we cover the SOAP service basics, guys? We picked up a standard service, one of the standard service, we tried to call it, and we understood the basics. Shall we repeat the same thing for REST as well today, guys? It's easy to understand the basics, right? So a first thing that I do was I would log into a Fusion Cloud instance, and I'm using EVWB, guys. All of you use the same instance when you practice later today. Perfect. Looks like it has gone down. Let me see if this is working. Yeah, this is working. So what I would do was I would also mark the contract. I'll try to get the sheet updated with the logins later today, guys. I'll talk to the vendor and get this updated. Now EXGE is working. Now what I would do was in this instance, yes, similar to how Oracle has given a lot of standard SOAP services to talk to the application, Oracle has given a lot of standard REST APIs as well to interact with this. Where do you find the standard SOAP and REST APIs given by Oracle, guys? We have to go to the same documentation link. So I'm picking up the documentation link from slide 8, and I'm going to paste that in here. And what do we see here, guys? It's the same link that we went into yesterday. I'm going into financials, integrate, and I'm going to use a review REST APIs. I'm going to use review REST APIs link here. I'm going to use review REST APIs link. Okay. Now, when I use a review REST APIs link, so instead of going into yesterday, we went into SOAP services. Just give me one moment, guys. Yeah. So yesterday we went into SOAP services. Today we are going to go into REST APIs. And when I go into REST APIs again, yes, I'll be able to see a lot of standard REST APIs given by Oracle for Fusion Financials Cloud. You will see REST API to load. Yeah, if you scroll down, you would have REST API to load expense reports. And you have a REST API. If you scroll down further, you have REST API to load payables invoices. And if you scroll down further, you also are able to see a lot of payables and receivables REST APIs. Okay. Now, we are not going to, since we are trying to get the basics right, we are not going to go into these standard REST APIs. We're not going to pick up either a receivables invoice or a payables invoice because the payload is slightly complicated. So since we're trying to get the basics right, we will go ahead and pick up a bank's resource as an example. And you see the AR invoice resource that we see, right? Receivables invoice resource that we see here. We'll see how to use this in the integration flow in this integration when we create it. In integration 18, yes, we will create AR invoice REST API in the integration stack. And when we build that integration, we'll see how to consume this standard REST API given by Oracle. But since we are trying to get the basics right, let's pick up a bank's resource as an example. And the moment you pick up a resource, remember these are called as resources, guys. And the moment you pick up a resource, by default, you will be able to see 5 REST endpoints. By default, you will be able to see 5 REST endpoints. And what do these endpoints help you with, guys? They help you to create, update, and delete a bank. And you also see two more endpoints to get the bank details. You also see two more endpoints to get the bank details. So in short, what do these endpoints help you with, guys? Any resource you pick up, you see 5 endpoints. And these 5 endpoints would help you to perform. Let me just close all other tabs to avoid confusion. And these endpoints will help you to perform CRUD operations. Okay, so they would help you to perform create, update, and delete. And we also see 2 operations to perform a read operation. We also see 2 read endpoints to get the bank details. Now, any REST API that we see, now you see these are the REST endpoints you see, and for every REST endpoint, you will be able to see a method and you will also be able to see a path. For every REST API, you see a method and you see a path. And the best part is we don't need to guess the method that we need to use. Okay, so it's given very clearly in the documentation, like what method you need to use. And if you're trying to get some information, from cloud, say for example, if you have to get all the banks for a specific bank, since we're getting the information, we have to use get method. And when you're creating something, we have to use post method because we are posting something to cloud. And if it is a delete, you use delete. And if it is update, you use patch. So these are the methods. These are HTTP methods that we have to use. Remember guys, REST API is nothing but a REST endpoint. REST APIs are nothing but HTTP endpoints. REST APIs are nothing but HTTP endpoints. And for every endpoint, you will be able to see a method, HTTP method, and the relative path. Hold on with your questions for half an hour, Maran. I've just started off. Okay, let me complete the story, then we do the question and answers. And for these methods, and apart from these methods, you also see a relative path as well. Now, let's see how to call 4 out of these 5 endpoints. We'll see how to call 4 out of these 5 endpoints and understand the basics. So let's pick up get all banks as an example first. So I pick up get all banks endpoint. I'm going to put that in here, copy that. And what is the URL that is working? EXGE instance. I'm going to copy this and I mention it here. I'm going to mention it here. Now, what is it that we have to do is in this, and what you see here is a relative path. And before we see how to use these endpoints to perform CRUD operations on our banks, let me take you to Fusion Cloud application and let me show you where the banks would appear in the application. Where can you find the banks? So for example, if you click on the username, you need to click on the username. Under administration, you click on setup and maintenance. And that will take you to FSM screen, functional setup manager screen. You click on the task ribbon. And after you click on a task ribbon, we need to go to global search. And here we can search for manage banks. Remember, since banks come under setup, we need to search for the task by coming into setup and maintenance. So you click on manage banks. And when you click on manage banks, you will be able to see on the landing page, you see the list of banks. We do have an option to create a new bank, update an existing bank, and we have an option to export the banks and send it to other application. So if I have to, or if client has to perform CRUD operations in the application, If they have to perform CRUD operations on the bank, they can very well come into this screen. They can see the bank details, create a new one, export the bank, send it to other system. They can update the bank as well. If it is one or two bank that we have to create, we can click on a plus icon and create the bank. But what if you're getting 100 banks from another application, guys? What if you're getting 100 banks from another application and you have to load them into cloud from an integration? Or in another integration scenario, maybe you need to export the list of banks and send it to another system. How do you do the CRUD operations in bulk? Right? So that is exactly where we can make use of the standard REST APIs given by Oracle. I understand banks is slightly difficult for you to relate to because it usually is a setup. But whenever I say bank, think of it as an invoice. Assume that you have a billing system and you're getting invoices to load into ERP cloud. If it is one invoice, user can go to the invoice screen and create it manually, similar to how he can create a bank here. But what if you get multiple invoices? Or what if he has to extract invoices in bulk and send it to other systems? That is where the REST APIs will come handy. Now let's see the first one. Let's try this endpoint first. Now, what do you make out from the name, guys? Get all banks. From the name, I could guess that if I hit this endpoint, I should be able to get all the banks configured in the application. Anybody think so as well? Can we take it as a guess and move forward? See if it works. Get all banks. My assumption is it would give me all the banks. So let's give it a try. And how do we call this, guys? How do we test this? Ideally, we will be calling them from an integration in OIC. But since we are not very much familiar with OIC yet, so how is it that we're going to do? We need to have a testing tool to call these REST APIs. Yes or no, guys? That's exactly what we did yesterday, right? For SOAP services, what did we do? We installed SOAP UI testing tool and we use this tool to test the SOAP services. So we need a testing tool for REST APIs. And yes, you need to install a tool called Postman. Go to Google and search for Postman tool. And it is a very popular testing tool, guys. And we use Postman tool to test the REST APIs. So this is a symbol or logo for Postman tool. You just go to the download Postman option. And depending on your operating system, it would automatically detect, depending on your operating system, it would automatically show you an executable file that you can download. So if you're using Windows machine, you would probably try this one. You would download the executable file. If you click on Windows, it downloads the executable file. You just have to download this executable file, double click on it and install the Postman tool. And once you download it and install it, you will see a shortcut like this appearing on your desktop. And we use the Postman tool to test the REST APIs, guys. Any integration specialist desktop you see, guys, they would have these two testing tools installed. We use SOAP UI to test the SOAP services and we use Postman to test the REST APIs. You can call the REST APIs from SOAP UI as well. And you can test the SOAP services from Postman as well. But it would be much more simpler and cleaner if you use Postman for REST and SOAP UI for SOAP. Okay, so go ahead and install the Postman tool and open the application. And when you open the Postman tool for the first time, you might probably not see any of the requests. When you open the Postman tool for the first time, you might not see any of these requests. You just have to create a new request. And when you create a new request, whenever you have to call a REST API, you need to mention two important things, guys. You need to mention the HTTP method that you need to use. And you also need to mention the URL that you want to call. Now, what is the first endpoint that we are trying, guys? This one, get all banks endpoint. This is the one that we are trying. What is the method I need to use, guys?
Get.
And that is the default one here. And what is the path I need to use? I copy this path and I paste this in. It says FSCM. What does FSCM means, guys? What does FSCM mean?
Financial supply chain management.
Financials and supply chain management. And it is a REST API. You have resources, keyword, version number, and you have the API name. API name as Cashbacks. Now you mentioned the complete path here. You mentioned the complete path. And to this path, remember does it look like a complete path to you guys if I hit the send button? Do you think this path is going to work, guys? Or are we missing anything here?
Yeah, the server we are
The
missing.
host name.
Host name, everything.
Host name is missing, right? Because if I hit the send button, what Postman is going to say? It would ask, Prasad, did you had a good night's sleep? Looks like you're trying to hit the relative path directly, right? Because we know that there are millions of Fusion Cloud instances out there. Okay, every client has multiple instances. So if I just hit the send button, Postman wouldn't know from which of those instances it has to get the bank details. So the path that you see in the documentation is a relative path. It's just a relative path. To this path, what is it that we need to prefix, guys? From whichever instance you want to get the bank details, you need to copy that instance base URL. So if I want to get the bank details from this instance, EXGE instance, I would go ahead and copy that ERP Cloud instance base URL and enter it here. Remember, when you copy and paste it, there would be one additional slash that would be added. Never ever, we should never have two slashes there, guys. After you copy the base URL, take out the slash, otherwise the URL might not work and you might get confused. So when you copy paste the base URL, there might be one additional slash that shows up, take it off. So this is how you get the complete endpoint URL, guys. You need to prefix the ERP base URL to the relative path. And if we concatenate these two strings, concatenate the ERP Cloud instance URL with the relative path, that's how you get the complete endpoint URL. Now, if I fire off a request, would it work, guys? Anybody think so?
The authentication also required.
Authentication is also required because if assume these APIs are not authenticated, anybody who could guess 3 or 4 letters of my instance URL, they can walk away with my data, and they can also load junk into my application. For the obvious reasons, yes, all the standard REST APIs and the SOAP services given by Oracle are secured ones. Now I need to go to authorization and I have to enter the authorization details here. Now, in what format we have to enter the authorization details? In the authorization details, we have to select basic auth because the Fusion Cloud instance supports only the basic auth. And you mention the username as FinIMPL. And what's the password, guys? This is a password. Pick it up and paste it in. So what would Postman try to do now? It would try to log into this instance with this username and password, and it would try to get the bank details. Now, when you hit the send button, what is it that you get? You see 200 OK response, meaning I remember this 200. So this is basically a HTTPS status code that you get back. And and in the response, you see that there is a collection of items that you have got back. You see that you have got back a collection of items, and there are around 262 banks, and you see them here. And each item in the collection, or each item in the response that you see in the collection, is a bank in itself. So what is the first bank you see in the application here, guys? What's the first bank you see here? Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. And is that the same bank that you're seeing here? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And you see the complete bank details here. Now let me minimize this. What is the second bank you see here? 001 with some suffix. And you see the same stuff here. So which means this REST API call, it basically pulled all the bank details from this application. So in any integration scenario, if I have a requirement to pull the bank details and send it across to another system, I don't have to do it manually from an integration. I just have to call this REST API, pull these banks and send it across to other system. And so we see all the banks that you see in the application has been pulled. Now Maran might say, Prasad, I don't need all the banks. I need only Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. I only need one particular bank. So do we have any endpoint which can help us get only one specific bank, guys, not all the banks?
Get a bank.
Get a bank.
Looks like we have got one more get endpoint which says get a bank. And is the method same for these two?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's a get method. And is the path same? What's the difference that you see?
Bank, we need to give bank ID.
Yeah, if you have to get a particular bank details, we have to pass in a bank party ID as input. So if I directly hit this endpoint without passing in any bank party ID at the end, so it is going to fetch all the banks. But if you pass in a bank party ID as a template or URI parameter, so if you mention something in curly braces, that is called as template or URI parameter. If you have something in curly braces, it's called as template or URI parameter. So at the end of cache banks, if I put a slash and if I pass in a specific bank party ID, and usually a template or URI parameters would always be the primary keys, guys. Now, what is the primary key for a bank? It is a bank party ID. So to this endpoint, if I copy the bank party ID and if I put a slash here and pass in that bank party ID, so without this, it is like me calling the get all banks endpoint. And if I pass in a specific bank party ID at the end, after putting a slash, so this is like getting a specific bank details. Now, when you send it, what is it that you get? You get only a specific bank details. Okay. Now, so yes, if you pass in a specific bank party ID, remember, since this is a primary key, when we hit the banks table with the party ID, you get only one bank, and that bank details is what you see here. Now, can we only get the bank details, guys, or can we also create or update as well? Create or update a bank in cloud?
Yes,
We do.
create.
We do have endpoints to create and update, right? So shall we give it a try? I need your help here to test this endpoint. What do I need to do first?
No.
Go to Postman, create a new request. What method should I select if I have to create a bank?
Post.
Postman.
Postman.
Okay, I select a post method here. And this is a path that I copy. And is this a complete path?
No.
Host name need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I copy the host name. I add it as a prefix. Is this a complete? Is this it? Is it, or do I need to do that's it, or do I need to add any other details?
Basic authentication. Yeah.
Basic
Authentication also we need to pass. Okay, fine. I go to basic auth. I pass in authentication. Are we good to go, or do we need
No,
to?
no, we need to provide input
Provide.
also. What
Yeah.
is that
We need to-
creation? The body, I guess.
Yes. So since this endpoint is going to create a bank in ERP cloud, remember here we are pulling the bank details, right? So to pull the bank details, when we want to pull all the banks, we don't need to pass anything. If you want to pull a specific bank, we pass in that bank party ID. But when you try to create a bank, I cannot just ask the postman to go to this instance, create a bank, log in with these credentials and create a bank without any value. Even if I try to do it, if I try to create a bank manually in the application and I try to hit save and close, without entering any information, what do I see? It says, sorry, Prasad, you have to enter at least the country and the bank name. Other fields are optional. So with that, one important point is in case of get endpoints, we don't pass in request payloads. In case of get and delete, we don't enter request payloads. But when you are creating something or posting something to cloud, or when you are updating something or patching something in cloud, in case of post and patch endpoints, we need to pass in the payload. Here we need to pass in with what details the bank needs to be created. Here we need to pass in what details need to be updated on the bank. Right? Now, obviously, what is your next question? The next question is, yes, I need to go into body and I have to pass in the sample payload here. What is your next question, guys? Prasad, where do I get the payload from? Because in case of soap service, what's the behavior that we notice, guys? The behavior that we notice with soap service is when I loaded that WSDL, it automatically created a sample request for us, right?
We can call it a payload request, right? This.
Yeah, this. So yesterday when we tested the soap service, it automatically generated a sample request payload for us. And we just passed in the value, appropriate values there. So this is a sample request payload we used. And in case of soap service, when you load a WSDL to a soap UI, it would automatically generate the request payload. But in the case of REST, where do we get that sample request payload from? You don't have to look elsewhere. It's available right within the documentation itself. So if you click on create a bank, scroll down, you will be able to see a sample request payload given by Oracle. Copy this entire sample request payload. And what is this payload format called as, guys?
JSON.
JSON format. What does JSON stands for? JavaScript Object Notation. Remember, guys, REST APIs use JSON format for communication. It is pretty simple and lightweight. And the entire JSON payload goes into curly braces. And every attribute, yes, you need to mention the attribute name in quotes, colon, attribute value in quotes again. In the JSON payload, you mention the sample JSON request payload, mention it in curly braces, and you mention the attribute name in quotes, colon, attribute value in quotes, comma, second attribute name, colon, second attribute value. So it is a simple payload format. You just have to mention the attribute name in quotes, colon, attribute value in quotes. And if the value has number, you can still put it in quotes or you can skip it as you see here. Both would work. But just to keep it uniform, we usually put the numbers also within the quotes itself. Okay. Now, what is it that we have to do now? So we copy this XML, we copy the JSON payload from here. And this JSON payload looks pretty simple and lightweight when compared to XML. Yes or no, guys? If you look at this XML, you see what is it that you notice, guys? For every attribute is mentioned twice. So you see this is a start tag and this is an end tag. This is a start tag and this is an end tag. And between the start and end tags, you have a between the start and the end tags, you have the value. Okay, between the start and end tag, you have the values. Every attribute is mentioned twice unnecessarily. But if you look at the JSON payload, you see attribute name is mentioned only once. So the payload size itself is coming down to half. So if I convert this XML payload to JSON, how is it going to look like, guys? It's going to look like this. It's going to go into curly braces, job package name, and this is how you mention the value. Job definition name, and you mention this. So if I convert this XML payload into JSON payload, this is how simple it is going to look like. So yes, every attribute should be mentioned only once. So that itself brings down the payload size to half, because here it is twice and here you mention it only once. And also in the case of SOAP service, you have a lot of overhead. Like you need to mention, you need to have a header, you need to have an envelope element and all that. Okay, you have to mention all these details for it. And what is it that we need to do? Okay. So in place of a SOAP header, yeah, we don't have to mention any of this in case of a JSON payload. Okay. Now, what is it that we need to do? We have this. Now we copied the sample request payload from here. I copy this sample payload, and I would go back to my Postman tool and I paste in this request. And let's quickly check if this bank exists in Fusion Cloud. So I go back to Fusion Cloud and I'll go ahead and quickly verify if that bank exists in Fusion Cloud. Do we see that bank already in Fusion Cloud? Yes, we could see it already, right? So what I would do was I would just prefix your batch identifier UG80 to the bank name. Now, when you practice this today, guys, instead of UG80, you prefix your initials. So that it becomes unique. And also you just change the bank number to a random one. Now this bank, does it exist in Fusion Cloud? It doesn't, right? So let me go ahead and give it a try. So when I hit the send button, what would happen? Postman would try to log into this instance with this username and password, and it would try to create a bank with these details. I'm trying to create a bank in US with these details. Let's fire off a request and see what happens. Now, when you send a request, you get a response. It is 201 created. Now 201 indicates that a new resource is created successfully. And one important thing you see in the response is, in the response, whatever is the payload that you're passing in the request, that same payload you see in the response as well. Plus, along with this payload that you see in the response, you also see the who columns, and you also see a primary key generated for the bank. So this is a clear indication that this bank is created in cloud. So shall we check if the bank is created or not? Do we see the bank created now, guys, in Fusion Cloud? We could see that it is. So with the help of a create endpoint, we can go ahead and create a bank in cloud. Can we only create it, or can we also update it as well? We do have update endpoint, right? So shall we try this one now? Update a bank. I create a new resource, new request. And what's the method I need to use for update?
The syntax will become the same.
Batch method. Copy the path. And to this path, what do I need to prefix? ERP base URL. And in place of bank party ID, let's say I want to update this same bank. Let's say I want to update this bank that I've created. I'm going to copy that bank party ID. And I'm going to pass in that bank party ID here. I see some students doing this mistake, guys. When I ask them to replace bank party ID, they would just replace only that literal and they would put it in the curly braces. Please don't do that, guys. Please don't do that. Paste in the bank party ID there. And we need to pass in the authentication details, and we also need to go to body, and here in raw you need to paste in the JSON payload. Now again the same story, Prasad, where do I get the sample payload from? You can click on update a bank, and if you scroll down you will be able to see the sample request payloads. If you scroll up here, you will be able to see what all attributes you can update. And if you scroll down here, you will be able to see a sample request payload here. Now, yes, if you want to update a bank name and the description, you can mention a sample payload like this. And sometimes when you paste in the payload here, guys, the output method or the format that might have been selected would be text. So if it is text by mistake, don't leave it that way and don't send a request, because if you send a request, you get unsupported media type. Okay, because REST APIs only accept JSON. So if you try to pass it as text, it doesn't work. In some cases, when you install the Postman tool new, when you paste in the payload, it might be text and you might get this error. If you get this error, you just have to go in and change it to JSON. Now, I don't want to update the bank name. So what is it that I'm asking Postman to do now? I'm asking it to log into this OIC instance with this username and password and figure out, search for this particular bank, which is UG80 bank. And on that bank, I want to update only the description. Remember, guys, in the case of update endpoints, there are two possibilities. One is patch, another one is put. If it is patch, you in the request payload, you pass in only the details that you want to update. So if you have a puncture, what do? You patch only that particular place, right? So similarly, when you say patch here, meaning you pass in only the attributes that you want to update here, not all. But if you say put, that means whatever resource, if you use put, you need to paste in the complete bank details here, because put means whatever details that you're passing here are going to replace the existing bank details. So if it is put, you need to mention the complete bank details. Even though you're updating only one attribute, you have to mention every other attribute as well. In case of patch, it is only the attribute that you want to update. So you don't decide which method to use. It is given clearly by Oracle in the documentation. So since it is patch, and I just want to update only the description, I'm passing only that details here. So I say updated description. And I'm going to go ahead and send the request. So on this bank, on my UG80 bank, I'm asking Postman to update only the description. So I get a response 200 OK. And here you see, first of all, the bank description is updated. And after that, it has again pulled all the bank details using this ID. It has again pulled all the bank details using that ID. And you're able to see the bank name, alternate name, and so on here. And what is the description that you see? Description is already an updated description. Whatever is updated description that you see here, you see that here. Now you go in here, and if you search for UG80, it was showing old description. If I go ahead and search for it again, you see the updated description. So this way, with the help of endpoints, REST endpoints given by Oracle, and don't try out the delete endpoint. Don't try delete, it doesn't work. Even in the front end, we don't have an option to delete it. Okay, so if your next question is why Oracle didn't remove it from the documentation, I'm not really sure. Now, this is how you can use these standard REST APIs given by Oracle to perform CRUD operations in cloud. Now, if you look at...
sorry, Sudhakar here.
Yeah.
So while using put as the option, do we have to give all the details that needs to be
on the bank? Yes.
So not just one or two fields. So if you select put, so entire details should be given in that JSON, right?
If I select put here, I would have to pass in the entire details, and in the description, I have to say what is the updated description that I want to put. So this is how I need to pass in the payload if it is a put method. So what would happen? This put method, what it's going to do, whatever are the bank details that we have for this ID, it's going to knock it off and it's going to replace with this complete resource. Put means it's going to replace the entire resource. Patch means it's going to update only the attribute that you pass in.
Got it.
Yeah. But remember, we cannot choose which method to use. We just have to go by what is given by Oracle. So if it is, since it has given patch here, I was just passing in only this. But if it is, if Oracle would have given put here, then I should have done this.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And do you guys see any pattern in the path here, guys? Yeah. 5 minutes session will be all yours, guys. I understand people have questions. 5 minutes, session is all yours. So do you guys see any pattern in the path? Not 5 minutes. I need 10 more minutes, please. Do you see any pattern in the path here? Method, we are clear, right? Method is fine. Do you see any pattern in the path? When you're trying to fetch all the banks, or when you try to create a bank, we don't need to pass in a bank party ID, because here we are fetching all the banks, and here we are creating a new bank, meaning ID would be generated. So in case of get all and the create endpoints, we don't have to pass in the bank party ID as an input parameter, or it doesn't meet the bank party ID. If you have to get, update, or delete a bank, then we definitely have to pass in bank party ID as input. And this is going to be the primary key on the banks table. So when we hit the bank table with this party ID, you get only one row. And that has been configured as a template or URI parameter. So that what could happen when you try to, when you call it, you would pass in a bank party ID so that it can get, update, or delete that specific bank that it is able to identify uniquely with this ID. So out of 5 endpoints, 3 would need context. If you have to get, update, or delete, if you have to create or get all, you don't need the party ID. If you go to any other REST API, the same story repeats. So instead of bank, if I go to AR invoice REST API, do you see the same story here, guys? We have 5 endpoints. One endpoint will help me get all the invoices. Another endpoint will help me to create an invoice, and these 2 endpoints doesn't need the invoice ID. And I also have 3 more endpoints to help me get, update, or delete a specific invoice, and those invoices and those endpoints need the customer transaction ID as input, which is the primary key. And the methods are also exactly the same. So this would be the default behavior. And as I say this, Maran and Ram or most of you might be waiting to ask this question, because the whole story is fine. And when we try to get a bank details, we have shown us how to get the bank details by passing in a bank party ID, right? You have shown us how to get the bank details passing in a bank party ID. But what if I want to get the bank details, not passing in a bank party ID, but maybe I want to get the bank details based on, say, country, or I want to get the bank details based on bank name or a description or other attributes? Is there a way, right? So what's the requirement, guys? I don't want to get all the banks. I want to get the banks And I want to get the banks based out of or based on either a bank name or country name or description. So is that possible? So my requirement is simple. So I want to get all the banks based out of US and I have to send it to another system. But do we see an endpoint here which can help you to get the banks based on country, guys, here? You see that you have one endpoint which fetches all the banks, another endpoint which fetch a particular bank details based on party ID. But do we see anything that can help you with this?
Is it all banks?
All banks, but with a filter applied. How did I get only the banks based out of US? If I don't apply any filter, it's going to give me all the banks. So that is like hitting this endpoint. But on top of that, on that response, I need to apply a filter, United States here, so that I see only the banks based out of US. That is the exact same thing I need to do on this endpoint as well. So on the get all banks endpoint, I need to apply a filter based on country so that I can get the bank details based on country. So the next question is, what are those filters called as in query in REST APIs? You click on get all banks, you scroll down, you will be able to see a query string there. You will be able to see a query string there. And the query parameter, this is a second type of parameter that you can define onto a REST APIs. What is the first one, guys? First one, you're clear, right? First one is a template parameter or URI parameter. This is going to be the primary key. And when you hit the banks table with that primary key, you get only one resource. But what's the second one? Second one is query parameter. And query parameter is going to show you what all filters you can apply on the resource. And do we have a country name here? Yes, we have. Now, how do I apply a filter? How do I pass in a query parameter? I have to say question mark q equal to. So I go back here, and if I take off this party ID, hit the endpoint, I'm going to get all the banks. And if I have the bank party ID, get only one bank. But these two are not my requirements. I want to get the banks based out of US. So on the get all banks endpoint, I have to say question mark q equal to, and I need to say country name equal to United States. So this is like select star from banks table where country name equal to US. Now, when we send the request, how many, we again get back a collection of banks, but how many do we see, guys? Is it 276 or 40?
Yeah, 40 count.
40. Meaning these are the banks that are based out of US. And then the obvious next question that you say is, Prasad, can we use these query parameters together? You can very well use them. So first of all, when you use the query parameters, you can use operators. You can use logical operators. You can use a semicolon and mention multiple query parameters together if you want. So say, for example, if I put a semicolon and say bank name equal to, and if I pass in this bank name, what is it that I'm going to get? Sorry. How many banks will I get back, guys? Only one bank, because it is like select star from banks table where country name equal to US and bank name equal to so and so. So this way, if you want to query the banks based on a custom filters, not based on a primary key, but based on custom fields, the bank fields, then you can make use of query parameters. First, you need to go to get all banks and you see what all query parameters are supported, and you can use any of them by passing in this specific format. These are the query parameters supported, and this is how you do it. So if you go to receivables invoice, since it is a banks, you have a template parameter to get the banks based on country name and so on. And if you try to go to the receivables invoice, when you go to get all banks, get all invoices, you go to query parameter, you would be able to see various filters that you can apply. So you can get the invoices based on status. based on print date, based on salesperson number, or based on billing date. Okay, so this is a second type of parameter that you can have on a REST API. Even when we build REST APIs in OIC, guys, we can make use of all these features in OIC. And we've covered REST APIs today, and we've covered REST APIs in SOAP services in yesterday's session. A basic thumb rule that you need to follow is, whenever you have to, remember guys, and we've also seen one use case wherein I've shown you how to use a SOAP services within the integration, right? We have seen a journal import service. Similarly, we will be seeing a couple of use cases wherein I show you how to use a REST API in the integrations. But please don't think that whenever you build integration in OIC, don't think that you have to use either a standard SOAP service or a REST API given by Oracle. There are plenty of other integration patterns possible. You have a bulk data upload option, you have business events, you have streaming, a lot of other stuff is possible. But if you're building inbound integrations using web service-based approach, meaning out of 100 integrations, only the 10% integrations that you build would be following the web service-based approach. And only in that set of integrations, you would be using either a SOAP or a REST. Now the key question, which one should I use and why? Can anyone help me answer that? Which of these services should we prefer and why? Should I prefer REST or SOAP?
I prefer REST.
Is useful.
We should always prefer REST APIs over SOAP services because REST APIs use JSON format for communication, which is pretty simple and lightweight. And since the JSON format is lightweight, REST APIs always deliver better performance. A thumb rule, always REST. And for some business objects, you might not find a REST API. In such case, you don't have a choice and you need to go for SOAP services and use it. Simple one-liner, always REST. Only if REST is not available for any business object, go for SOAP. Okay, any questions, guys?
For XML, we have a schema document, right? For the structure, we have data types, max, suckers, unbound. So for the JSON, do we have anything like that, or how do we identify the data types and all for the fields?
When you go to the sample payload, in the REST APIs, in case of REST API also, there is something called as a specification that gets generated. When you build REST APIs in OIC, I'll show you how that specification looks like after we build the first REST API. But for standard APIs, if you go to the request body, you click on show source. Here you will be able to understand what is the data type. Is it a nullable field? Can it be null, yes or no? So all the details would be available here.
Oh, okay. Okay, fine.
But when you build integration in OIC, there would be a specification generated for it.
Okay, Prasad.
Yes, Maran, please go on.
When we are adding the filter condition, do we have a wildcard, like a percentage or?
No. It has to be a full value.
Or we cannot send a partial value and then get that.
Yeah. You don't need it, basically. We're not doing database programming. We asked that question because we are coming in with that typical technical consultant mindset, but we don't need it in integrations.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the other question I have is,
go
on. See, in some, I think in Salesforce, we call one API which insert and update, right? But in Oracle, we don't have like that. We have to create or update, right? It's two different things, is it?
Yeah. So you, in case of this endpoint, you see that it would be two separate endpoints. And you would so you would either have to create it or you have to update it. We don't have any endpoint which says merge a bank. We don't have anything like that.
So we have to validate whether the bank exists in the Oracle application.
So what you can do, well, you can call this in the integration.
Okay.
And in the fault handler, if a bank exists, this is going to raise a fault.
Okay.
We're calling this endpoint, right? So do you think this REST API will do the validations? Will validate the data before it creates it in cloud? Ideally, it should, right? Because if I try to send the same request again, it should not create a duplicate bank because that would be rubbish, right?
Okay.
So if I try to create a same bank, what does it say? It says 400 band request.
Okay.
And it clearly says, Prasad, a combination of this country and bank already exists.
Okay.
So what is it that I would do?
Whatever the
I would
primary
try
key
to,
they use in the database, then it will throw the same thing. Okay.
yeah, it will be the same. So there would be whatever constraints that have been applied on the bank's resource in the in the DB table. So that would be there.
So by default, we call the create. Then if it fails, call the update that.
That's it. Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, Sudhakar.
Yeah, like you have told, REST API is always preferable because we use JSON in that.
Which is lightweight.
Yeah, it's lightweight, and so XML because we are not using because it uses XML.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that was my question. Thank you.
Yes, Manohar.
So actually, I missed the part like how to navigate, how to get the request body from the API for an API.
Okay. Well, I am in the bank's resource, right? And click on create a bank endpoint. And when I click on create a bank, it would take me inside. And if I scroll down, I'll be able to see the sample payload here.
Okay. Thank you. And today is my first session, and I just want to like, will the URLs will be shared?
Yeah,
the URLs
you can.
used here.
Yes. Call me on this number after 10:30.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And after your question is answered, please lower the hand so that we don't have confusion. Yes, Ram, please go on.
Yeah, that REST JSON URL is there at some resource, some 11 dot some number is there at, or the what is that format? It will keep on change or it will fix it for this one?
It doesn't change.
It doesn't change, right?
Yeah,
okay.
It's been this way for 5 years now.
Okay, fine.
Okay, yeah. Yes, Veera, please go on.
My question is related to the special characters in the description. If we are using double quotes, will it throw any error?
So what we normally do is we put it within the, you say double quotes. So you say if you have any quotes within it.
Yeah.
So obviously it will throw an error. So what we have to do is to escape it, we have to put it 2 more times.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is a special symbol that we have to use. Now, obviously, it would, if you put in quotes, it would throw an exception. You would have to wrap it around a. Okay. I think if you put in, there's a concept of that escape characters in there. So if you use it, then you have to escape it. Otherwise, what would happen if I put a quote here, right? So it assumes that it has ended here, and this would throw an error, obviously.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys, from anyone? Yes,
Hi, Prasad. Yeah. My question is, if there are 2 primary keys, like if you have to enter not only the party's bank ID, and you also have to, in such cases, how do we?
No, normally the tables given by Oracle, right? It has
only one primary key.
Yeah, it has usually one primary key. But in case there is a table with 2 primary keys, you definitely have to pass them both. Only then it can identify the record that you're talking about.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Akhil.
Also, I got an error installation in SOAP testing tool. Can I share the screen so that you can see?
Okay, I'm not able to hear you. So can you come again? You want this links, is it? The links that I'm using in the session. Is that what you're asking for? Or the PPTs? Hello?
No, Prasad. Yesterday I got an error in the SOAP testing tool. Can I?
Okay, when you tested a SOAP.
Screen?
Yes, please go ahead and share your screen. And before I come to you, let me take the question from Raghav. Do you have any other question, Raghav?
Yes, Prasad. Like, can we use multiple query parameters at the same time? Like,
Yes. And I've shown you as well, right? You just have to put a semicolon and use it.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Others can drop off. So Akhil is facing an issue when he's trying out the SOAP payload. So just go ahead and share your screen, Akhil.
Is it visible, Prasad?
No, not yet. Go ahead and share your screen.
Yeah, Prasad, sorry. While others, while Akhil shares the screen, so in the recording, do we have this QA also recorded? Because I see that some of the things are being edited. It would be good if these questions also are there in the recording, Prasad.
No, we don't edit the recordings. I'm uploading the entire dump. So even whatever discussions that we happen
Okay.
even after the session, everything is included in it.
Okay, yeah. Because I felt like that. It's okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it'll be there. Unless I stop the recording and somebody suddenly raises a hand and say that I have one last question. Yeah, but I usually stop the recording only at the end.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. Yes, Akhil, please go on.
Is it visible, Prasad?
No, Akhil, I cannot see your screen. Can you click on a share button at the bottom? Hit and select the first option.
I've done the exact same thing.
Okay. Let's do it this way. Let's connect offline at 11 o'clock. I'll share a Zoom link. Ping me in WhatsApp. I'll share the Zoom link. We'll connect in WhatsApp and we'll connect in Zoom again. A different meeting. Yeah, I can see the screen. Yeah, I can see the screen now. It is coming up. No, I'm not able to see it yet. It looks like you have the internet connection is slow, I believe, at your end. No, it is still coming up. Okay. Can you maximize the request payload? Can you go to the XML? You are in RAW, right? Can you go to XML? Yeah. Can you go to XML? Yeah. Scroll to the right. It tells you what is the problem, right? It is saying, why did you put in enter after AP health check? Why did you hit the enter button there? Yeah. Can you move this closing tag to? No, dear. Can you come down to the next line? Job definition closing tag. Come to the job definition closing tag. Okay, close this, close the request once. I think it's misbehaving. Close the request. No, you have shared stop the screen share, Akhil. I asked you to close the request. Okay, to keep it simple, let me explain what is the problem that you have. Okay, so that you understand. So when in your payload, so this is what you have. So your payload is not looking like this. Your payload is like this. After AP health check, you have an enter, and after job package name, you have an enter. So don't have those enters or spaces after AP health check. You take it off. Move this job definition name right after the K, and move this job package name right after transactions, and it would work. Okay, does that answer your question? You seem to have additional enters here. Okay, additional new line feeds there. That is why you're getting that issue. Okay, take off those additional line feeds and it would work. Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. See you tomorrow, guys. Thank you.